Could we rise, please? The President is coming in. Okay, could we please remain standing for the national anthem? I'm going to ask that gentlemen take their hats off, please, and then the choir, could you please lead us in the national anthem? I'm the MEC for Economic Development and GDAT in Gauteng, and I will be directing the program for you this morning. So let me start by acknowledgements, and the first person to acknowledge will be our President, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Premier of Gauteng, Mr. David Makura, the DG in the Office of the Premier, Ms. Pingile Baleni, Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Ibrahim Patel, the Minister of Small Business Development, Mayor Kumbuzo Ntsabeni, the Director General of Trade and Industry, Mr. Lionel October, and the SEZ team at the DTI. This is the team that the President referred to as the can-do team. So yeah, indeed they are the can-do team, Mr. President. Also to acknowledge the presence of the Executive Mayor of the City of Tshwane, Mr. Stephen Mokalapa, the Acting City Manager of the City of Tshwane, Mr. Moigeti Nzimani, and his team, the HOD of Economic Development, Ms. Pumlan Pai, the Group CEO of GGDA, part of the can-do team, Ms. Musa Chabalala. She is a very vibrant young lady, and she works very hard and pushes very hard with subtle aplomb, but she gets things done with a smile. But yeah, yes, Mr. President, she's going to push you to solidarity. That's what you're in for. Also, the Ford Motor Company CEO, Mr. Neil Hill, the Director of Ford Motor Company, Mr. Dired Van Mali. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Billy Sipuru, the Acting Director for Region 6 who are in Region 6. Also to acknowledge the presence of the Ward Councillor, Mr. Thabo Ntlazeng, Ward 86, and Ms. Priti Sibotani, Ward 38. We also have, a special, very, very special guest. It's a young lady that we met the other day when we were doing the public participation in Nairobi's. And her name is Neo Hape Mukhudi or Mukhudi, I hope I pronounce it properly. She's a student who's very keen to understand opportunities for public relations and marketing within the SEZ. She's still a student. Neo, yes, please, right? Okay. Please, a round of applause for a young, vibrant lady. Thanks. She was very inquisitive, Mr. President, and she chased Musa around one, asking a lot of questions. So that's the reason why we have her here. And we hope that when we get into the second phase, she will have graduated and she will be part of the candidate team. So that's why we invited her here today. You asked for it, so that's the president, that's the team. They will be chasing you as well. They will ask, let me share this with you. He never forgets, right? Yeah, he doesn't. Okay, let me go back then to acknowledging members of the media as well, the leaders of the community of Mamelodi and Mabias, and yesterday I see there's a table, two tables, two and a half tables for councillors. Then could you just rise for us to acknowledge you, councillors from both tables? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, you may be seated. Just as a teaser, I'm going to keep the program flowing. Just as a teaser of what's going to happen today, I want to say the following. I'm not going to say much because the Premier and the President and the Minister have a full story for yourselves. But the total value of investment in phase one is, at the end of all of this thing, we'll have three phases. But for now, phase one is worth 3.5 billion. And we expect it to create 6,700 direct jobs. The President of Kenya will give you more detail on that. And the following primary wards were identified to be impacted by this development. It's Ward 38, it's called Mamelodi Sun Valley, Ward 41, Ward 43, Ward 67, Ward 86, and Ward 87. This is not the only wards that are going to be impacted by this program. So the President and the Premier will give more detail. Relax, councillors. I saw your reaction, so please calm down. Calm down, there's more detail in where that's going to be done. So like I said earlier on, I'm going to keep the program moving. We're supposed now to take a video that's going to last about a minute and 30 seconds. Is the video ready? From the Ford company? Is it? Okay. Are you ready? Okay, you can proceed.
1886, the birth of the modern car. A preconceptualized idea that became a reality with few supporting of what was to become the phenomenon of our time. But what if it could roll forward by itself, he said, and become a vehicle that transports, becoming a family necessity, an industry that provides livelihood, dynamic with diversity. What if building a globally competitive and transformed automotive manufacturing city is possible? A city you can live in, a green city with recreation and open spaces that directs growth in relation to where people live, work and play. A productive city with its agile and effective work ecosystem which attracts investors, retains investment, facilitates the efficient movement of freight and delivers a supportive economic environment. But what if you are part of it?
I'm going to ask the Premier of Gauteng to come to the podium and welcome all of us to the function, but immediately after the Premier has spoken, then Mr. Hill will take to the podium to link the Premier's message with the video, and then you will all understand why we are here. Mr. Premier, give him a round of applause, please. It's okay. I'm reminded that the mayor was my boss before by the president and the premier. Mr. Mayor, I still live in your city. Please don't be angry with me. The program that I have is slightly different, but could you please come over and you're welcome. So.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Well, they call it sabotage. And I've got the powers to banish you from the city. Or I can deliberately just increase your rates and taxes. And I will just have to think of what appropriate palliative action I will take. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Program Director, MEC Msubye, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Ibrahim Patel, the Premier of Gauteng, Mr. David Akura, the Minister of Small Business, Ms. Kumbuze Mchubeni, the CEO of Ford Motor Company, South Africa, Mr. Hill, the members of the Mayoral Committee present here, the officials from both national, provincial, and local government, led by both the acting city manager and the respective DG, the business leaders present here, GGDACA CEO, Ms. Musa Chabalala, the TIDA Chair and Team, Mr. Ian Nelson. I see here Mr. Fani from the Capital City Chamber of Business. I recognize you, sir. All protocol observed. Welcome to the city of Tshwane, the capital city of South Africa, the one that ignites excellence. My duty today as the Executive Mayor is to welcome the President, the Premier, and the Ministers, and most importantly yourself, to this August occasion. It is an immense pleasure to be afforded the privilege of welcoming you to the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone, where we are breaking ground today. The Special Economic Zone program is integral to government's efforts to reignite economic growth by attracting strategic foreign direct investment for sustainable growth and development. Mr. President, you first pronounced on the expansion of the ORTIA-SEZ at the State of the Nation address. This is the implementation phase. On behalf of the residents and the SMMEs that will benefit from this development, I take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to you for ensuring and identifying that such a development of this magnitude comes to Tshwane. More importantly, that the city has an involvement as an equal partner. Ladies and gentlemen, the city has set a target of 10 billion in investment for this current administration. This development contributes to this in order to create much needed jobs and grow our local economy. With the SEZ operating optimally, I'm looking forward to exceeding this target significantly so residents can enjoy the full benefit of economic activities that create jobs and improve their quality of life. The Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone will assist in driving transformation to become a leading automotive investment destination and provide an array of job creation, skills development, and small business opportunities. It is through access to opportunities such as this that gives meaning to life alongside our hard-won freedoms and rights. Dignity is strongly linked to being able to work, and this SEZ provides the dignity to our people. Having a vested interest as a city and as a partner in this automotive park, the city has already ensured that it is prioritized and fast-tracked through our strict process that identifies strategic service delivery projects such as this one. The Strategic Investment Committee ensures that such development are fast-tracked. As the city of Tshwane, we are committed to fostering closer relationships with all spheres of government and critical stakeholders in a concerted effort to position our economy as an ideal investment destination. Tshwane is open and ready for business. From red tape to red carpet. Today demonstrates just that. A working partnership amongst all three spheres of government, private sector, labor, and the community working in unison. I am humbled and excited to be part of this groundbreaking event. I look forward to meeting our targets to have all suppliers in the park in December 2020 and also assess his contribution to the unique elements that are entrenched in the city. Let me once again welcome you to the city of Tshwane, the city that ignites excellence. The tagline remains, Mushumo, Uchawa, Diat. Away. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. To err is human, but to forgive is divine. So please, I hope all of those words you are going to take back and not punish me at all. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to ask, I hope you remember the video very well. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Del Hill, who is the CEO of Ford Motor Company, to come to the podium, and then he will be followed immediately by the Premier. Mr. Hill. Okay.
Thank you, MEC. The President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Minister of the Department of Trade and Industry, Honourable Ibrahim Patel, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, the Premier of Gauteng, Honourable David Makura, MECs for the Gauteng Province, the Group CEO of the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, Moses Shabalala, CEO of the Automotive Industry Development Centre, Hans Schultz, Executive Mayor of the City of Tshwane, Mr. Stevens Mukhalapa, the Interim Board for the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone, chaired by the DG of the DTI, line of October, and consisting of senior officials from the city of Tshwane, from provincial government, and from Ford Motor Company, Mr. Hawker Berry, Glenn Seiler, and Doreen Vermali, who have been instrumental in turning this project from concept into reality. MNCs from the city of Tshwane and representatives from the Tshwane Economic Development Agency, the European Union Ambassador to South Africa, Marcus Conaro, United Kingdom High Commissioner Nigel Casey, Charge d'Affaires for the United States, David Young, NAMSA Chief Executive Officer Mike Mabaza, NARCAM Executive Director Renee Matalau, councillors and community leaders from Easterus, Moratella View, Malmadius, and Mamelodi, vice chancellors of universities, business leaders, representatives from supplier companies, and of course, valued members of the media, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm and heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you from Ford Motor Company of Southern Africa to this important and very exciting event today. It is truly an honor to host all of you at the Ford Silverton Assembly Plant on this momentous occasion, and it is indeed a privilege to have President Ramaphosa present as he formally launches this landmark new project in the lead up to the Presidential Investment Conference tomorrow. However, before I proceed any further, it is only appropriate to convey our congratulations to the Springboks as they carve their names into the history books as Rugby World Champions for the third time. Mr. President, it was simply awe-inspiring to witness the sheer delight and excitement of fans locally and abroad at this resounding victory. And it was truly fantastic to see you joining Sir Khaleesi in the team and with the team in their celebrations and receiving that wonderful cup. It is special moments like this that remind us of how the spirit of the Rainbow Nation that defined our first historic 1995 Rugby World Cup victory on South African soil can be reignited again, and how the inimitable spirit and charm of Madiba remains an enduring theme that will never fade. It's truly heartwarming to see how sport can break through barriers and unite people from all cultures, languages, and historical backgrounds. It demonstrates how we are stronger when we stand together, united as one great nation. I'd like to make one small request though to the Bokke. Can we please not wait another 12 years to lift the trophy once more? I'd like us to be the first side that actually holds the trophy aloft 4 times. And talking trophies, you would have seen the racing vehicle parked outside. Our Ford Motorsport team shared in some of the glory with the Springboks on Saturday as they wrapped up the Class T cross-country title for the second consecutive year in our very proudly built Ford Tough Ranger, which gave us even more reason to celebrate over the weekend. Whether it is in sport or in business, there's a common thread that defines success or failure, and that is unity. The very reason we're all gathered here today is because of a unified approach by the public and private sectors to work together to bolster investment, drive economic growth, and create jobs for our people. The role of business is to create hope and opportunity for the men and women of this beautiful nation to realize their full potential economically as active members of our society. We provide the platform for people to achieve prosperity, thus changing their lives. And Ford has been doing this for a very long time. Ford Motor Company of Southern Africa was established in 1923, and over the past 96 years, the Ford brand has become an integral part of South African automotive landscape and our everyday lives. The Silverton Assembly plant behind you has been building vehicles and supporting the surrounding community for more than 60 years, and we plan to do so for many years to come. We believe in this country's potential to become an economic powerhouse in the global automotive manufacturing environment. We are fully committed and support that we will continue to contribute to the South African Automotive Master Plan 2035 vision. We aim to contribute towards the goal of achieving 1% of global vehicle production in South Africa, and we will be striving to achieve the 60% local content target by 2035. Through this initiative, we are taking a significant leap forward towards supporting the South African automotive vision. Ford South Africa is already a centre of excellence for the Ford Ranger pickup, which is assembled right here in Silverton. It is sold locally and exported to more than 100 markets around the world. The Ranger is the leading light commercial vehicle export from South Africa and is the top-selling pickup in Europe. This is the result of an investment of more than 11 billion rand in our local operations since 2009, both here at the Silverton vehicle plant and also at the Struendale engine plant in Port Elizabeth. When we kicked off our export-driven investment in 2009, Ford was producing approximately 25,000 vehicles per year, primarily for the domestic market. Since then, our production has grown by more than 400%, and we are unlocking similar expansions in our supply base. In 2016 alone, we invested over 3 billion rand to increase our production capacity and to support local production of the Ford Everest SUV. Late last year, we expanded our capacity to produce up to 168,000 vehicles annually, with around two-thirds of these being exported predominantly to Europe and to the UK. As a result of this, Ford currently contributes over 1% of the South African GDP as one of the country's largest original equipment vehicle manufacturers. Mr. President, I can confirm to you today that Ford Motor Company remains fully committed to South Africa. We are committed to growing our business. We are committed to supporting the industry, the component suppliers, and the value chain as a whole. And we are committed to creating incremental new job opportunities for local communities. Today's launch represents an important milestone as Ford has united with all three spheres of government, the DTI, along with the Gauteng province and the city of Tshwane, to develop the site behind me into an automotive component manufacturing hub and a truly world-class automotive city. Almost 5 years of hard work and dedication have brought us to this day, which, if I may be so bold as to quote you, Mr. President, creates a new dawn for the automotive sector. Today, we broke ground on the first phase of the new Tshwane Automotive SEZ and are currently engaging with 18 suppliers, of which 9 have already expressed interest in establishing operations on this site. The Tshwane Automotive SEZ, will span 162 hectares, and in the first phase, in the initial 81 hectare section of the SEZ, is already oversubscribed. As you can imagine, having our suppliers a stone's throw away from our vehicle plant will contribute immensely to improving efficiencies, reducing transport and logistics costs, and dramatically reducing non-value-added operations. This will ensure we are primed for future expansion opportunities by unlocking economies of scale whilst reaping the rewards of an established local supply base. The Tshwane Automotive SEZ will include a sequencing centre which will ensure the parts are optimally delivered to the assembly line, ready to be fitted to the vehicle in the most efficient manner. This is a crucial step towards further bolstering our domestic and global competitiveness and enabling future expansion opportunities as we chart the journey to becoming the largest Ranger production manufacturing facility in the world. It is our vision one day to double our production and be the preferred employer of choice for the surrounding communities. We continue to explore various avenues to deepen localization and broaden our supplier base, as our suppliers are our partner and instrumental in success. In the spirit of going further, we are cognizant of the need for greener initiatives that contribute towards sustainability. Therefore, next year we will be launching the first phase of a 4-year renewable energy plan with the intention of making the Silverton plant completely self-sufficient for all our energy needs. This green project will not only make our plants more environmentally friendly, but will also create further direct and indirect jobs. In conclusion, thank you. In conclusion, we welcome this ongoing public-private partnership. It is only by government, industry and communities working together that we can create these opportunities and fulfill our true potential for a brighter and more prosperous future. We are confident, Mr. President, we will see you again in the near future as this project grows from strength to strength. Let us not forget
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hill. Can we give him another round of applause, please? Okay, now I'm going to invite the Premier of Gauteng, Mr. David Makura, to give us his remarks. Mr. Premier?
Some bit of adjustment. Thank you very much to our Program Director, MEC Musupe, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Ibrahim Patel, the Minister of Small Business Development, Honorable Shabeni, the Mayor of the City of Tshwane, Councillor Stevens Mukhalapa, the CEO of Ford Motor Company, South Africa, Mr. Neil Hill, and the executive team from Ford, our DGs, the DG of Trade and Industry and the DG of Small Business Development, and the team of officials from national government, our head of Department of Economic Development, and our officials from the province. MMCs, there are a lot of MMCs of the city of Tshwane. I saw here, it's like the city executive is all here today. Let's give them a big round of applause. And our councillors from this area of our province and our city who have already been acknowledged. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I can't forget that we also have agencies of the provincial government. There are 2 agencies here, the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency and the AIDC, the Automotive Industry Development Center. They've been the key drivers of this development, working with the City of Tshwane, the City of Tshwane's Investment Agency. Mr. President, I want to welcome you back. You brought us a very beautiful trophy, the most beautiful trophy I have ever seen from Japan, and you lifted it. The whole nation was watching you. You were the third of our presidents to do so. It was President Madiba, it was President Becky, and then now it is President Cyril Ramaphosa. brought us luck. And I hope we will have some rain too. Mr. President, increasing levels of investment is one of the hallmarks of your presidency. And this requires a comprehensive response and collaboration by all spheres of government to ensure that we all respond to this determination and call you have made, that we must increase levels of investment from both domestic and foreign investors. You did so in February 2018 in your first State of the Nation address to say investment is going to be the key focal point of your presidency. In February this year, I had a meeting with DG Lionel October in Cape Town immediately after your second State of the Nation address to discuss what we need to do to fast-track certain investments that are being slowed down by bureaucracy. And one of those investments was this investment by Ford Motor Company, South Africa. After that meeting with DG Lionel October, a number of things unfolded. In March, I met with Neil and Diren, that's the team from Ford Motor Company, South Africa. Neil had to come back from leave. He was on leave overseas. We met at the airport at OR Tambo International Airport. And the key issue we were discussing was what is it that we need to do as Gauteng government and the city of Tshwane to fast-track this investment. After that meeting, I met with the new mayor of Tshwane, Mayor Stevens Mukhalapa. He was fresh from the box. To discuss with him, as we had discussed with DG Lionel October and with Neil and Diren, what is it we can do to fast-track this investment? This we did because for 4 years our province has been putting a great deal of effort to re-industrialize our province under the program of transformation, modernization, and re-industrialization. And at the center of that program is to reactivate those sectors of our economy, Minister Patel, that a few years ago were doing very well, but have gone down, especially in the industrial centers of our province, Ekurhuleni in the east, and the south of our province being Sidibeng. These were the key industrial hubs that were beginning to de-industrialize. I've since held many meetings with the team that we have established to deal particularly with this investment. Meetings with government officials and Ford Motor Company. The former MEC, Cyril Ramaphosa, in the last 4 months has been at the heart of fast-tracking these issues. And this gained a lot of momentum. Mr. President, I am happy, but a bit jealous that he is now in your office to drive investment and infrastructure. Yes, the President announced yesterday that the former MEC Cyril Ramaphosa is in his office to do what he was doing for us, but he's now doing it for the whole country. Let's give the President a big round of applause. We have a new MEC who in the last few days has also been driving this investment. I'm making this statement to show that this is institutional commitment. It's not individual, it is the whole government of Gauteng together with the city of Tshwane, but not just with the city of Tshwane, with all our municipalities, to institutionalize our approach to unlocking investments. And we do so because we are committed to ensuring that the necessary jobs are created. Our vision for a few years now has been that we want to transform the city of Tshwane away from just being the capital city, the administrative hub of our country. We want to transform it into an automotive and innovative city, the city where the production of vehicles, including trucks, as Roslyn and Silverton here, would contribute the the most to our country. A few years ago, 20 years ago, Gauteng was a very small player in the country's automotive industry a few years ago. Now we produce more than 40% of South Africa's cars. They are produced here in the city of Tshwane. It is for that reason that our vision is to have this become the auto city, the automotive city of South Africa. That is our vision, the capital city, but the automotive city of our country. Minister Patel, we have worked with your team very, very closely. And I think often people complain that in government things don't happen, decisions are not made, processes are long, are bureaucratic. But I can say, in the last few months, particularly since February, we have changed the way government works, Mr. President, completely. Even the city of Tshwane, through this experiment, approves investments much faster than it has ever done. The provincial government takes out anything that stands on the way to investment. We remove that obstacle out of the way. And national government, this team, this DTI team has been great. And I know that as a provincial government, we often don't thank those in our national government, especially civil servants who are working hard. May I just use this opportunity that for one more moment, we give the DTI team a big round of applause. I think these are not just typical civil servants, Mr. President. They don't push pen and paper. They understand that the investors will go next door if you don't make decisions quickly. So through this program, I want to conclude by saying we have experimented that decisions can be made very, very quickly. We have the fastest approval of an SEZ in our country. Fastest ever. But we are not just building a big industrial park that is empty. As it will be announced later, we already have a fully subscribed industrial park. And that we are not just dreaming about the number of jobs that will be created in the long future. It is already clear how many jobs are going to be created, and the President will talk about that. So we are starting the President's second investment conference this afternoon, but we do so on a very positive note, on a very, very high note. South Africa is turning. Yes, things do take long. I know our communities, sometimes people say, yeah, but they're taking long. Things do take long. It takes long for the economy to turn. But we are very determined to make quick decisions as government, to collaborate with business, to cooperate, to ensure that this economy is indeed going to turn, to attract more foreign direct investment into our economy. We are going to use the example and the experience of this SEZ to go into other areas of Gauteng. Our vision is simple. We want Gauteng to be a mega multi-tier SEZ. It's a grand vision. We started at OR Tambo with the IDZ. We are now with the Auto City here. We are going to go to the high-tech SEZ. We are going to go to the agro-processing SEZ. But we can't do these things without the support of national government and local government. For that reason, President, I know you talk about the entrepreneurial state. You are still theorizing it, I know. We are practicing it. We are not just a developmental state. We are a developmental state with entrepreneurial characteristics. Thank you very much.
Okay, another round of applause for the Premier, please. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep the program going. I'm now going to invite the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Honorable Ibrahim Patel, to give us his remarks, to to introduce the President and invite the President to the podium. I will not be coming between the two of you. So could we give the Minister a round of applause, please? Mr. Welcome.
Thank you, Program Director. President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, Premier of Gauteng, Honorable David Makura, Minister of Small Business Development, Minister Tshwane, MEC of Economic Development, MEC Mosupe, and the MECs who are present here today, Mayor of Tshwane, Councillor Mokhalapa, and the ward councillors who are present here today, CEO of Ford, Neil Hill, and the Ford management team, DG Lionel October, Mosa Shabalala of the GGDA, and the team of officials who are present here today, ambassadors, business leaders, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to make a few remarks at today's soft turning of the Tshwane Auto Hub. Here in Silverton, a town founded in the year 1890. During the Great Depression, a number of destitute white farmers were reportedly settled in a large shanty town in the area, leading to the name Blikkiesdorp. Today, it is home of one of Africa's most advanced industrial facilities. Within the period of a few generations, through will and effort, we change things. Mr. President, the factory of Ford that is located within sight here used to be a Chrysler factory that produced, I don't know if you recall, the Valiant car. So the Valiant was produced here. Today's sod turning also marks a step to deepening the industrial capacity of Gauteng and to energize the economy. We've deliberately timed it to be the day before the second South African Investment Conference here in the country's economic heartland. The Gauteng manufacturing economy alone, and I'm emphasizing just the manufacturing economy, employs more than 620,000 people. And if it was a country, no ideas to you, Premier, but if it was an independent country, it would be the fifth largest manufacturing economy on the African continent, with a manufacturing output greater than that of countries like Kenya, like Ghana, like Tunisia, and Cameroon. Mr. President, just last week, you chaired a cabinet meeting that endorsed the new strategy on special economic zones and that said, press the on button for the special economic zone in the Tshwane Auto Hub. That same day, that same afternoon, as soon as we called from the cabinet meeting, we stepped out and said it's on. The site clearing started. Those yellow metal equipment that you see outside were brought on site, and dust was flying, grass was being cleared, and now we see a week later the launching of the first special economic zone hub under the new policy framework. The launch of this facility comes at an important moment in Africa's economic story. In July this year, President Ramaphosa, together with other African heads of state, launched the implementation phase of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The agreement will bring together countries that constitute a market of 1.3 billion people with a combined GDP of some 2.5 trillion US dollars. Our continent is urbanizing, its economy is growing, and with it, the market for cars and consumer goods is expanding fast. For a long time, it was said that Africa produces what it does not consume, and that it consumes what it does not produce. That is no longer true for the car industry. Indeed, we assemble over 600,000 vehicles locally every year in South Africa, here in Tshwane, in Nelson Mandela Bay, in eThekwini. That's a lot of cars. If you park them bumper to bumper, it would stretch some 2,700 kilometers. If you parked all the cars on the N1, Mr. President, from Pretoria, and you took just the cars that South Africa produces in 6 months, just 6 months, and you started in Pretoria bumper by bumper on the N1, right through all the small towns in the cities, through the Karoo, through Beaufort West, until you get to the winelands and you continue to park cars bumper to bumper, you'll get to Cape Town. 6 months production from the South African car industry. This industry is a significant exporter. Of the 600,000 vehicles that we've assembled last year, more than 350,000 were exported to other countries. Export of cars and trucks and bakkies and components accounted for 165 billion rand in earnings, making up 11.5% of our total export value, export basket by value. That's money that comes back to South Africa. That's production that creates jobs here. That is opportunity for young South Africans. Our job is to deepen the local economic impact by bringing more of the component manufacturing to South Africa, not only to assemble cars, but to in fact make the components that we assemble. And to see the opportunities in the African market. Last year alone, the African continent imported some 238 billion rands worth of cars. That's an opportunity for us. And it imported that from the rest of the world. South Africa and other countries on the continent can become the suppliers of choice. The automotive industry is one of our success stories of a carefully implemented industrial policy. 7% of the country's GDP is contributed by the industry, and it supports 120,000 jobs. And its success ingredient formula or recipe is very simple. Policy predictability and certainty. Car makers know what government says is what government does. Reciprocal commitment. There's no free lunch. Automakers bring something, government brings something, workers bring something. Together we work together. Efficiency in the application of public resources. Our purse is small, so we've got to use it sparingly and well. Responsiveness to the technology revolution that's reshaping our world. Utilizing the expanding market opportunities and deepening local component manufacturing. And that's what brings us here today, to launch officially this SEZ and to turn the sod that you've done today. The establishment of the facility today is testament to our collective commitment to work hard and together to energize production here on the continent. It's taken a new way of doing things, the Kaoleza approach. Not bureaucracy, but action. Not explanations, but solutions. Not delays, but focused implementation. Premier Makura, your personal involvement to move things forward and to be there when we hit challenges was part of what brought us here together today to meet our deadlines. Neil, you and your team were exceptional to work with. I remember how easy it was to get you to agree to meet on a Friday evening to discuss the SEZ program and how, in fact, we are going to make this work. You, Ockett, Neren, Glenn, the team. DG Lionel October, you called, you facilitated, you unblocked, you made things happen. You brought together a whole new way in which the civil service works with the public, with the private sector. And you were, of course, surrounded by a team of officials that had that same spirit. And Mosa Shabalala, you and your team, it was absolutely inspirational for me to be in a meeting and not hear complaints about the spheres of government, but just see how they have joined up government, how they can work together as a great team. Mayor, your help in sorting out the land issue and bringing local government to the party was also very important. We practically showed what can happen when we work together. In June this year, President Ramaphosa, in the State of the Nation address, outlined a new vision that contained what President Ramaphosa called a reimagined industrial strategy, focused on expanding the country's industrial base. He called for a number of sector master plans covering the auto sector, but also clothing and textiles, poultry, tourism, chemicals, the digital economy, and many other sectors. Mr. President, another famous visionary, you would have heard of him, Henry Ford, said, and I quote him, "I will build a car for the great multitude. It will be large enough for the family, but small enough for the individual to run and care for. It will be constructed of the best materials, by the best men to be hired after the simplest design that modern engineering can devise. But it will be so low in price that no man making a good salary will be unable to own one, and enjoy with his family the blessing of hours of pleasure in God's great open spaces." From Henry Ford's dream, we come today to another vision and another visionary. Mr. President, you spoke during SONA of dreams that are big enough to inspire us to change our country and our world, big enough to transform the lives of our people and to give hope to young people. Each small practical step we take, to build a factory, to turn the sod at a supplier park, to dig a new mine, to farm an unused piece of land, or teach one more child to read and write, each step takes that dream forward. It's my pleasure now to invite His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, who inspires us to do more, to address you today. Please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the President to the podium.
Program Director, Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister Patel, Minister of Small Business Development, Minister Kumbudzo Nchaveni, the Premier of our province, David Makura, the Executive Mayor of Tshwane, Dade Stevens Makhalapa, the Managing Director of Ford Motor Company of Southern Africa, Mr. Neil Hill, government officials who are here with us, including Directors Generals and DDGs, business leaders, members of the Diplomatic Corps, councillors of local government structure, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure to be here to celebrate the launch of the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone. With just a day before we officially open the second South African Investment Conference in Johannesburg, this special economic zone is yet another affirmation of what I would call growing investor confidence in our country, much as there is some gloom, some doubts, some dismay, but South Africa is still proving to be a very attractive investment destination because we are the continent's largest automaker, and our automotive sector exports are growing steadily and climbing, having recorded 19% growth this year compared to the previous year. Now that is a record of growth, which demonstrates that we are moving forward. And sometimes we are blind to the little and measured and large progress initiatives that we are recording. And sometimes as South Africans, we like to bring ourselves down and make ourselves feel dejected and depressed and dismayed. Not only will this automotive SEZ catalyze further growth in a sector that is the mainstay of our national industrial base, it will also bring jobs. It will also help to support local businesses, but it will also help to spur the growth of our city's economy. I'm pleased to note that the 18 companies that have been engaged to set up their own operations in this SEZ are already revving up their own engines and are rearing to go. And I'm told that 9 of them have already confirmed to set up factories here by January 2021. Now, if you never thought of anything that's uplifting, the building of a factory, the building of an industrial facility, is one of the most uplifting things that you can have in any economy. And it is happening here, under our own noses, and we are grateful for that. Now, the projected investment amount, as we've heard earlier from the MEC, that will come to about 3.6 billion rand. But more importantly for all of us, this will have the potential of getting 6,700, I repeat, 6,700 direct jobs that will be created here. This is phenomenal. Now, this is phenomenal. You don't just stumble across 6,700 jobs every day. It takes a lot of doing to create a single job. And here, in this place, that is just grass and sand and soil that made my shoes dusty, we are going to create 6,700 jobs. And that fills me with a great deal of pride. I am so encouraged when I hear news like this, because it is immensely encouraging and comes at a time when business, government, labor, and civil society must work together to resolve the twin challenges of slow economic growth and unemployment. This is what we've been talking about since last year, saying that we want to garner more and more investments into our economy so that we can create jobs. Now it is happening in real life. This launch is taking place after a very exciting weekend for our country, when our national team, the Springboks, soared to victory at the Rugby World Cup in Japan. Now, people keep talking about this victory, and they don't talk about having seen me in the scrum. They're not talking about that. And I'm telling them that you must be blind if you did not see me there. The success of the Springbok once again reminds us that we are a winning nation with great prospect. When I spoke to the team just before they went into battle, I eyeballed each one of them and I asked them, "How are you feeling?" Some of them said nervous, and I knew they were lying to me. Because as I shook their hands, I could just feel determination. And they've got large hands. I mean, these guys are big. They are huge. Kolisi himself, I mean, his biceps are this big. He's got big hands. And I knew as I shook hands with them that they were going to win. It means that we can be a winning nation and we can attain our goals if we work together. As Sia Kolisi himself said, we can work together as a nation and in partnership with our friends in the international community, many of whom are present here today. We are on a firm path to rebuild our country and return our economy to higher levels of productivity, as well as to transform it to make it much more inclusive so that we can have inclusive growth. Now, I'm glad to have heard the Premier said that this province is committed to ensuring that it becomes a province that is committed to developmental growth. It's a developmental province and with entrepreneurial characteristics. That's fantastic. Now it shows that they are quick learners, and I'm glad that the Premier himself is a quick learner, and having gotten the theory from me to become an entrepreneurial state, they are now putting it into action. I love that. Thank you very much for being such a quick learner, Premier. Now, restoring the confidence of both domestic and foreign investors is the linchpin of our economic reform agenda. The government has prioritized supporting, developing, and expanding our SEZ program. We have said, as the Minister Patel said, we are going to want to utilize SEZs as platforms for generating growth in our economy. Now, special economic zones play a key role in driving our bold new industrial strategy, which is aimed at reigniting economic activity and also unleashing private investments in sectors with high growth potential, including the automotive sector. Now, this Tshwane Automotive SEZ will positively contribute to our industrial strategy by attracting automotive components manufacturing companies and related services. And Mr. Hill, I was very pleased to hear you talk about acceding to up to 60% local content involvement in your own manufacturing processes. This is precisely what we want to hear. This is precisely what we want to see. Because through this, we will be able to give an opportunity for local manufacturers. We will give a huge boost to our burgeoning industrialists to participate in economic manufacturing zones like this. There are a number of benefits for bringing your business to an SEZ, such as preferential corporate tax regime, building allowances, employee tax incentives that we have available, favorable customs regulations, VAT exemptions, and support for capital investment, as well as training. Now, I'm further encouraged by the decision of the Ford Motor Company to work with government to establish the first automotive incubation center adjacent to the Tshwane Automotive SEZ. Once operational, it will support small, medium enterprises, especially black-owned businesses, to perform value-added sub-assembly to Tier 1 suppliers for the motor industry. Now, the development of the Tshwane Automotive SEZ will support the expansion of the incubation center and contribute more broadly to the development of black industrialists. The proposal to establish this SEZ was initiated by the Ford Motor Company to help expand its automotive footprint in South Africa through the attraction of its global suppliers into the country. Now, this ambition was further enhanced by the Gauteng government's plan to developing a new automotive city in Tshwane, and aligns with the South African Automotive Master Plan 2035, which sets out the clear targets for us to increase localization. Now, at this SEZ, the outcome of partnerships is going to be at a very high level, particularly partnerships between Department of Trade and Industry, the Gauteng provincial government, the city of Tshwane, and the Ford Motor Company itself. We really appreciate the way all these entities have worked together to produce this outcome. But more importantly, I want to applaud and appreciate the fact that all of them had this can-do type of approach to things, where they came across obstacles and difficulties, they had this approach of saying, there is no problem without a solution. It can be solved, and we are going to solve it as quickly as possible. Now, that is the type of approach that we want to prevail throughout our country, that all of us, in whatever entity that we are working in, we must have the can-do type of approach that they have displayed. And I'd like us to give them a round of applause for having this type of approach to work. And we are happy that the Ford Motor Company chose the South African government as your strategic partner, as indeed you could have gone anywhere. You could have gone anywhere in any part of the world. We are delighted that you chose South Africa, you chose Gauteng, and you chose Tshwane. And this is the demonstration of a most wonderful partnership. But fellow South Africans, it also talks to something that's also important, that indeed our country is an attractive investment destination. What we need to do is to make sure that we consolidate that attractiveness, we ensure that we can attract investors, because indeed investors can go anywhere in the world. They can come here and they can move on, and if they find that the offerings that we are putting on the table are not conducive for their investments to take place. I forever remember one investor in one sector, which I shall not name, who came to South Africa and looked around, and they received a lukewarm type of approach, and we did not seem to be too excited about them, and we were not even offering much assistance. And they left, and they went to Brazil, and when they got to Brazil, just Premier, as they arrived at the airport, Executive Mayor, you were talking about from red tape to red carpet. Well, today I didn't see any red carpet. I looked for it, I didn't see it. But Premier, when this investor got to Brazil, as they landed at the airport, they were met by the governor of the province. The red carpet had been laid out. They were immediately welcomed, and they set out precisely the support packages that they have for that investors. And that investor immediately said, we have found a destination for $5 billion, which they immediately invested in Brazil. That $5 billion could have come here, because that was their first port of call. And when they got here, we, in typical fashion, were not very enthusiastic, and we raised a whole number of regulatory barriers, and the investor just said, thank you very much, and they got on their plane, headed to Brazil, and planted a factory for $5 billion, which is exporting a great deal of their products. Now, we've got to change that approach. We've got to have the approach that Gauteng, that Tshwane, that DTI have demonstrated, to have this manufacturing facility established here. This is the way to go, to have the can-do type of approach where we attract investors, where we bring them in, and where we demonstrate to the Ford Motor Company and others that this is the home, the best home that you will ever get for your investment. Now, this initiative is proof that a partnership between government and private sector is vital in driving the developmental agenda of our country. These special economic zones will further align with our new district development model, which, as Minister Patel said, we call Kauleza, meaning hurry up. Have the can-do type of approach, but hurry up and get things done. It seeks to address service delivery and economic development challenges through the synchronization of planning right across all spheres of government, working alongside our social partners as in communities, as in labor, as in business, as in government as well. Now, a management company owned by the three spheres of government with board members also drawn from business will be established to develop and manage this automotive zone. In early 2018, we announced our intention to mobilize over 1.2 trillion rand of new investments over the next 5 years. This is what we set out as a goal for us, to bring in investments. Many of these investments will be located in various special economic zones across the country, which have to date have already created up to 16,000 direct jobs. Now, this excludes construction jobs, indirect jobs, and additional jobs from confirmed investments where projects are still under construction. We're introducing a new approach in the implementation of SEZs to enhance their impact in our economy. It includes resolving regulatory hurdles that have been obstacles to investors, which Tshwane, as well as Gauteng and DTI have resolved. Processes such as securing environmental impact authorizations, water use licenses, and the like will now be fast-tracked. Now, an issue such as a water license has in our country been taking up to 3 years to resolve, 3 solid years. There is one investor who said, we want to invest up to 10 billion rand, but because we can't get a water license, we're not able to make that investment. Now, in sitting down with labor, business, and the regulator for water, we've been able now to resolve that. And we are saying a water license should not take more than 3 months. And that is what I intend to have done. Now, this is the progress that we are now making, resolving all the regulatory logjams as they were resolved here. As Gauteng has proven that it is really an entrepreneurial province. And being entrepreneurial means that you identify challenges and problems and you resolve them immediately. That's how entrepreneurs operate. You ask Minister Tshwane, who's heading our small business ministry. Entrepreneurs are fast, they are nimble, they are agile, they are fast-footed, and they get things done. Now, this is the psyche that I would like to inculcate in all of us as South Africans, that once a decision is taken, we must immediately move and implement and not sit on decisions. This should also include our civil servants. Sometimes, not all of them, and DTI civil servants prove that they can move fast, they are agile, they are like springboks, they jump, they get things done. But in other departments, we tend to move slowly. And in a way, it's almost like people are afraid to take decisions. Now, I want to unlock the energy of our civil servants. I want to unlock the energy of all of us. Let us get South Africa working and moving. Let us shake this country into shape and move forward. Now, if we can just have that mentality, you know, what I like about Germany, not saying anything against the United States where Ford comes from. The Germans have this simple advert, which you often see on CNN, where they say they are the sort of an industrial giant of the world and they get things done. And everybody knows and believes that, yes, you see a German product, it works. And of course, we also know that you see a Ford Motor Company product and it works. I do have a Ford product, by the way, so that you know. And so that is what we need to inculcate. We are a developing country, economy, but we need to be entrepreneurial, as Premier Makura said. And we must go beyond being theoretical and put it into praxis. Now, investors at this SEZ will need to be signed up as we want before an SEZ is inaugurated to operate, and all three spheres of government will be involved with the private sector in the planning and the development of infrastructure, as it has happened here. Now, project management units at the Development Bank of Southern Africa will also assist in accelerating the rollout of infrastructure, including bulk infrastructure, factories, and warehouses. So we are getting the engine of our economic behemoth to start moving forward. Now, the IDC, which is also here, will assist with the development of business cases for SEZs, securing private investors and conducting due diligences on the investment that needs to be made. Now, this is how this SEZ is now going to be developed. And we're very pleased that it's going to be a modern SEZ. It's going to be an SEZ that other SEZs that we want to start will be modeled against. It will be rolled out in a phased manner on the 162 hectares of land that, as we had, has been provided by the city of Tshwane, with the mayor here holding the keys to who comes in and who pays what rate and all that. So that's fantastic. We grant you that power, Executive Mayor. Now, based on the investment pipeline that is already in place, phase one of the SEZ on 81 hectares is already oversubscribed, I've been told. This is one of those times where we see what I would call a silver lining on this cloud. It is a clear indication that this SEZ has generated enough and significant investor interest. Now, the government of Gauteng and the city of Tshwane are to be commended for seizing this opportunity, and we invite all other manufacturers to follow suit and help us to increase localization in our economy. Now, manufacturers looking for cost-effective and viable bases to locate should come to this SEZ or this and other SEZs across the country. Now, the existing material benefits of doing so will be multiplied once the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement comes into operation. What this is going to do is to open up new avenues, new markets for the goods and services that our manufacturers and our business people have to sell to various other countries on our continent. On Wednesday, which is tomorrow, we will be opening the second investment conference where domestic and international investors will be present with a vast to look at the vast opportunities that exist in our country. Now, one may have been tempted to think that with the economic situation that confronts our country, we would not be able to attract investors. And we have demonstrated once again that indeed we've been able to attract investors. We are going to have no less than 1,500 potential investors attending the conference. That is a phenomenal success for our country, and we are grateful for the work that Minister Patel and his colleagues have been doing in organizing this conference. Now, the message that we want to communicate is that South Africa is competitive and has proven that it is open for business, and it is also open as an investment destination. We also want to reiterate that we welcome and encourage partnerships between government and the private sector, and the Ford Motor Company itself is valued as a partner, and it's a long-standing investor in our country, and the opening of this plant further cements the good relations between the Ford Motor Company, and I'm also delighted that there is the U.S. Charge d'Affaires who is also here, which also proves that the United States continues to be invested in our country, in South Africa. So we thank you as the United States as well as the Ford Motor Company for being here, because this sends a very clear signal as ever that we are willing to collaborate. I once again want to congratulate those who have brought us to this point for the hard work and for everything that has been done to make sure that this factory does get built. Now, this facility does get built. I look forward to being invited, if I can crack an invitation, when it is finally opened. Just a hint, I'm just hinting that I look forward to that. Let us continue to build a sustainable and inclusive economy that will benefit all our people. And this is the way to go about doing it. And I'd like to end by saying, let us grow South Africa together, and let us work together, as Siya Kolisi said. Because when we do work together, we are great, we are formidable, we are just as good as that Springbok team that completely demolished the English in Yokohama. Thank you very much.
Can we give the President another round of applause, please? Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. We are almost at the end of our program. Adjustments again. And I'm going to give the vote of thanks, and it is going to be a very, very short vote of thanks. Mr. President, in your 2019 State of the Nation address, you cared to dream. You shared a vision that inspired all of us. Today at this launch, you testify to the value of your inspirational leadership. And we answer to the question, why? Why we had to launch this facility today. To answer the why is simply to say, together we must build our beautiful land. We must create jobs for the young men and women of our province, not only of our province, of the entire nation. We must reduce inequality and improve the quality of life of our people. We must transform our communities into sustainable livelihoods. So, Mr. President, we thank you. We thank you for your leadership. We thank you for your vision. Minister Patel, together with Director General Mr. Lionel October and the Can-Do DTI SEZ team, you heeded the President's call. You marshal the entirety of our system of government from the municipality to the province and to national government. You mobilize social partners and business. You cut through the bureaucracy of red tape, and you provided a case study for what can be achieved if we work together. Oblivious of our political differences, but committed to changing the lives of our people. Through your leadership, Minister, supported by your can-do team of seasoned professionals, you made today possible. Premier Makura, you took the President's vision and emboldened it. You heeded the call and declared that Gauteng will be a wall-to-wall SEZ. Today, supported by your Director General Mepindile Belani, the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, the can-do team, led by the vibrant Memusa Chabalala. I can't stop admiring this lady's energy and commitment. Mr. Lenz Schultz of IDEC, yes, another driven individual. I worked with them in the short space of time that I've been in office, and I admire their commitment to their work, and I think you need to be applauded for that. Please. And for now, I'll still call him for the last time, the former MEC of Economic Development, Dr. Ramukopa, who will now lead the President's Investment and Infrastructure Division. We congratulate him on his appointment, Mr. President, but yeah, the fan club. But it's also important. But it's also important that we acknowledge his work and contribution over the past 4 months to pull together a string of efforts into a seamless process that enabled this today's launch. He's also a very driven individual, as you know him. All of you have heeded the clarion call of Tumamina. You have made good on the commitment to expand the OR Tambo SEZ. In the next 6 months, Mr. President, these are our breaking rights again. In the next 6 months, we will unveil plans for our own Silicon Valley-style high-tech SEZ. The can-do team, a round of applause to them again. This will focus, as the name suggests, on the smart and high-tech industries. This SEZ will ensure that we take the lead in leveraging the latent potential embedded in the fourth industrial revolution. We are watching you. Yeah. The city of Tshwane, under the leadership of the Executive Mayor, Councillor Stephen Mukhalapa, put aside the intricacies of local state to ensure we approach this work through a single window to government approach. We thank you very much, Executive Mayor and your team. Lastly, yeah, a round of applause, please, to the Executive Mayor and the team. Lastly, let me acknowledge the contribution of Ford South Africa, in particular Mr. Neil, Mr. Diren Van Mali, and Mr. Oketberry for responding to the call for corporate South Africa to join hands with government in pursuit of a commitment to the growth and development of our country and the continent. It is common cause that Ford is a US-based multinational, but they found it appropriate to make a case for South Africa, and they persevered. That is why we're here today. Our presence at this event is testimony to their efforts, and we remain eternally grateful for their patriotism. To the many, many people who quietly, behind the scenes, made this moment a reality, far too many to mention by name, your efforts are highly, highly, highly appreciated. Let me also thank, in advance, the community who will own this project. And we call upon them to be the principal guardians of this project. We have a very, very tight timeline, and we can least afford any disruptions. We have made a commitment to the community that they will be our partners in the execution of this project, and we will spare no effort to ensure that we remain true to this commitment. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to request that the podium, all the respectable gentlemen, that you come to the right of the podium where you will be shown the model of the SEZ, and immediately after that, when you're done, you move towards the beautifully decorated van there for a photo shoot. And then, Mr. Neil, you will lead this. When the photo shoot is done, you immediately exit through that door to the tent on the other side. Thank you. Can we give them a round of applause, please?